Hi, I'm Kit O'Toole. I am the author of Songs We Were Singing, Guided Tours to the Beatles' Lesser Known Tracks, Michael Jackson FAQ, All That's Left to Know About the King of Pop, and I am the co-editor of Fandom and the Beatles, the act you've known for all these years. And you are listening to my friend Hudson Ranny's solo and Beatles podcast, I Know I Know.
Hello, and we are back for another episode of I Know, the place to get all of your solo Beatles knowledge and nerd out about them. So, first of all, I'm going to welcome our guest, Steve Schnee, and I want to let Steve take the stage and talk about his channel for a few minutes.
Well, I have a channel here on the tubes of you. You can look it up by looking at my name, which is Stephen Schnee. You can also type in Stephen Schnee, the CD Junkie. And basically, I don't talk about the Beatles. And the only reason I don't talk about the Beatles or anything related is because everybody does such a good job of doing it. But I talk about bands that maybe you haven't heard of before. You know, bands that just maybe work on the outskirts of rock and pop. And it's really just a fun thing to do. It's just to share music, talk about music. I do interviews with artists. We've got tons of things lined up, and we've got things in the can already that I just have to edit. And I have other regular shows that pop up every now and then. And it's just real fun, just sort of sharing the excitement of music. And it never gets old. You know, when I was younger than you, I mean, you're what, 8? You're 8?
14.
Oh, 14. Okay. You know, when I was a kid, it was always about the Beatles, the Monkees, Glenn Campbell, Neil Diamond, all the stuff that we grew up on. And then I discovered new wave and punk the same year that London Town came out. And ever since then, everything's worked in tandem. I listen to the new wave and punk, and I still listen to the Beatles and Paul McCartney, and I listen to Neil Diamond and Andy Williams and stuff. And it never gets old. Never gets old. And I love it all. I have no guilty pleasures whatsoever.
You love everything except for McCartney's solo career after 1980.
Well, no. I don't hate McCartney's solo career after 1981 or whatever. I'm just not a huge fan of it.
Do you want to explain why?
Because I was not able to connect with it. I'm a guy that listens. I'm like an emotional listener.
Yeah.
You know, there are people out there who are technical listeners. There are people out there who are casual listeners. But I'm like an emotional listener, and an album really depends on how the album makes me feel, and you know, the sounds and the textures and the lyrics and the harmonies, and this is all the stuff that matters to me. And so if I don't connect with it emotionally, then I don't think it's I don't sit there and think it's a bad record. I just don't necessarily want to listen to it again. So, well, maybe I'll...
We're back.
Okay.
All right. So, going back to London Town.
Okay.
What was Schnee's life like back in 1977?
Do you remember? Well, it came out 78, didn't it?
Yeah, but that's when the session started.
Okay, 77. I was 13 going on 14, and I had a girlfriend in junior high school, and I was super young. I mean, it was like a serious relationship for like 2 years. In fact, I bought her a copy of London Town.
Oh, that was...
Yeah. But you know, that doesn't taint my memories of the album at all. But you know, just a kid going to junior high school, and I wasn't working then. So each time I bought a record, I had to wait for my weekly allowance, or and it was exciting back then because you'd walk up to the record store, and in this case, the place I used to go to all the time was Licorice Pizza, and that was a chain of stores, like Music Plus and Warehouse and Tower Records. These were all around back then. And I remember distinctly walking into Licorice Pizza, and of course, it's all the glass fronts of the stores, whatever. And there on the glass facing out was a poster. It was like a 24 by 12 poster that says New Wings album, London Town, and then it gave the street date on it. And I was so excited. Oh my gosh, the new Paul McCartney album. And we just counted down the days till it came out. I remember when they played With a Little Luck on the radio for the first time, and it was the short version. It's the version that you find on Wingspan, the 3.5 minute version.
Oh yeah.
And I remember buying the single when it came out. This is before the album came out. And walking home from Licorice Pizza, because we didn't drive then, and looking at the label, and the label said it was like 5 minutes and 45 seconds. And we're thinking, it's not that long on the radio. So we were thinking, oh my God, is this kind of like Hey Jude, where it's just this long ending where they're going with a little duck with, and then Paul singing over that. We had no idea. Little did we know it had that little,
it stops and slows down on the single.
Yeah. And, but it was fascinating.
And I think that single holds so well today. I believe it went to number 1.
If
it was number 1 somewhere.
I think it was number 1 in the U.S. and I don't think in the U.K. people were big McCartney fans at that point.
No.
Go ahead.
But and I'm guessing you were pretty endeavored into your Beatles fandom by then if you were buying the solo stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we grew up with the Beatles. I mean, I remember when we were little, my aunt went and saw the Beatles. I think it was 65 or 66. I don't remember, but somewhere we had the Super 8 film that my dad filmed that she filmed of the Beatles during a press conference on TV, like that week or that day. And then she actually has live footage of when she saw the Beatles. It's a silent Super 8 film, and you can't even see them, but it was still exciting for us because it's like, wow, our aunt went and saw the Beatles. First time I heard Abbey Road was because of my aunt. We had gone over to my grandma's house for the weekend, and my aunt was still living with him. She was probably late teens, early 20s, and I was 5 or 6, and she played Abbey Road, and I was mesmerized. It's the first time I heard Abbey Road. First time I heard that I remember hearing Octopus's Garden was Sesame Street.
Oh, it was played on Sesame Street.
Sesame Street did a version of it.
Schneesame Street?
Yeah, Schneesame Street. You can actually find it on YouTube. If you type in Sesame Street, Octopus's Garden, you can see that footage that I watched when I was 6 years old or 7 years old. Now, I probably heard the Beatles version before that, but the first memory of that song, and then me finding out later it was a Beatles song, whoa! It was pretty exciting. But yeah, the Beatles were like our first band, I mean, we watched the Monkees when it first aired. I was 3 or 4. I don't have these memories of it where I go, oh yeah, but I remember that we knew Mike as Wool Hat. That's what we called him the entire time the Monkees was on. But my parents told us that there was, that was like the only 30 minutes of the week that they knew that my brother and I would not get into trouble. They could put us down in front of the TV set while the Monkees was on, and they could leave the house and go out and get dinner and come back and we'd still be there.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but what instead of going over my history, we're here to talk about London Town. What I will tell you, what I remember is in America, and obviously everybody knows this, but in America, the Mull of Kintyre single came out first, but it was actually Girls' School was the A-side in the U.S.
Yeah, which I think is a way better song.
I love. I think it's a double A-side.
Yeah,
I think both songs are fantastic. But you see, the interesting thing is you and I are going to have completely different perspectives on this album because I was listening to it when it came out. You were listening to it 40 years after it came out.
42.
42 years. So I think that that's a really cool, different perspective because, plus I've got 40 years of thinking about the album, of listening to the album. And actually, believe it or not, London Town is my second favorite Paul McCartney album after Back to the Egg.
Oh, Back to the Egg it's in my top 5 for sure.
See, and I purposely say it's my favorite album because a lot of people out there are going to go, oh, that's not his best. I didn't say it was his best. So it was my favorite.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference between you saying it's your favorite and you saying it's the best. Because when you say it's your favorite, it's not going to piss off as many people.
Yeah.
But I think what people don't give McCartney credit for, or maybe it's an unhidden thing, or maybe it's a secret that people talk about, is the fact that McCartney throughout the 70s never made the same album twice.
He didn't. You went from Wildlife to Red Rose Speedway to
Band on the Run to Venus and Mars to Speed of Sound. And I think that is fascinating, and it often gets overlooked.
Yeah.
And
I feel like some in the 80s, like, it does sound the same a little bit.
Apart from Press to Play being such a shitty album, I think that sometimes, like Off the Ground and Flowers in the Dirt, I think sometimes you can mix some of those songs in with each other.
Yeah, but you also had the Costello collaboration, so it kind of has that for Off the Ground and Flowers.
Yeah, see,
but good point.
See, this is the thing about McCartney. I think that he works best when he has somebody, a creative person to bounce off of. Number one, it was that guy in the Beatles. I forgot his name.
Mickey Dolenz?
Yeah. First it was John Lennon.
Yeah.
Second, it was Denny Lane. Now, a lot of people might brush off Denny Lane as just that, Paul's puppet. No. Denny Lane was a talented artist in his own right, and I believe that he sort of maybe brought McCartney down a little bit. Somebody, maybe he wasn't always a yes man. Maybe when he wanted to raise, he was a yes man, but I think that Denny Lane was a good creative force to work with McCartney. And then the third was, of course, Elvis Costello.
Yeah.
I don't think he's worked with anybody as strong as those three people since then.
I agree.
And that's why I think that quite possibly, it's more or less a on his own. I'm not saying that people are yes men, but on his own, he had creative control, and I think that can sometimes be detrimental to some people's career. I think McCartney's great. I'm not dissing McCartney whatsoever, but I think that he really needs somebody creative to work off of. I mean, in The Fireman, he's working with youth. I'm not saying The Fireman's great, but that is a creative person. So it doesn't come out sounding just like McCartney. It comes out sounding like, McCartney to the nth degree.
Yeah.
So.
But
go ahead.
Yeah. So let's get through the tracks. Starting off with my favorite song on the album and one of my all-time favorite Wings songs.
Mm-hmm.
The title track, London Town.
Yes.
I love the melodies.
Mm-hmm.
And that little slide guitar solo where it's like...
amazing.
Sounds like something George would have done.
See, the weird thing is that album sounds like it was recorded at another place in time.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds like they said, you know what? We had this old recording from 1957, and it's never been used. Here, why don't we put it into London Town? Because the song itself kind of is a gentle, floating song, and then this guitar solo sounds like it's just beamed in from another universe, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's a great melody. That slide guitar part, and then it goes into the dueling guitars, and it's completely out of left field.
It is. The promotion video was directed by Michael Lindsay Hogg, and at Twickenham Film Studios, and it was just, the video's corny. Have you seen it?
Yeah, and it's got Victor Spinetti from Hard Day's Night in Help in it. Yeah,
but it's beautiful, and this album really shines on the Denny Delane McCartney collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he co-wrote half of these songs, which I think is just wonderful to see him work with somebody this close.
And people have to, London Town, if you really look at it, I think that what people do, and this is for any artist, is they look at the full body of work. And they say, okay, let's just say McCartney 3. McCartney 3, it's not as good as the other stuff he's done, but they're looking at 50 years of music or 60 years of music. And what you have to do is you have to look at London Town. And if you take London Town, take it out of his catalog and listen to it as its own thing, it's actually closer to a folk album than it is a rock album.
It really is.
Yeah. And if you dim down the keyboards on London Town, and if you brought up acoustic guitars or whatever, it would be a folk song. But he's playing with there's plenty of other folky songs on the album, but he's using the same type of songwriting approach on that song, just using different instruments instead of acoustic guitars. But then again, that solo that you're talking about, the steel guitar solo, is amazing because it comes so late in the song too.
It does. And this is one of those songs where I can just listen to it over and over and over again and never get tired of it.
Absolutely. Agreed. Fantastic song.
It is. And it was the last single. And I don't know why it didn't do super well. I don't know. 8 Arms to Hold You does not say where it placed in the charts, but I'm not completely sure. But it's just a great song. That's a definite play for me.
Yeah. I don't think it did well. In fact, it never got played back in the day with a little luck, and I've had enough got played. I never heard the song London Town on the radio.
Wow. So, it's one of those songs where it's like, why wasn't this a number one hit? I feel like.
I mean, at times, okay, it's a fantastic song, and I think that at times I can understand why it wasn't number one, because if you look back at the time it came out, it was completely different from what was going on the charts at the time. That's why it wasn't number one. People weren't listening to it as a new Paul McCartney song. They were listening to it as a new song for the radio. And I don't think that the radio stations said, "Hey, we're gonna really push the single," because it was so different. And that's the way radio works. Is before digital channels and all that kind of stuff. So we were at the mercy of programmers.
Yeah. So moving on to the next track, Cafe on the Left Bank.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really underrated song. This never gets talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that, my opinion, it's a great song, great rocker. The lyrics,
drinking German beer.
Yeah, but
watching all the girls left and near.
It's a great fun rocker. The kind of song that McCartney can sort of knock out and maybe not even think twice about. Who knows if he would have played that song live if they had toured? That does sound like it would be a live staple.
Yeah, it really would. And I'd love to see. He hasn't played anything from this album live at all.
Yeah, which is really sad.
Except for Mall in Canada.
Yeah. I do think Cafe on the Left Bank is a cool song.
But I mean, it might be my second favorite song on the album.
Well, we've already knocked. See, now you don't have to listen to the album. You've heard your top 2 favorite songs already.
Oh, I love so many more. Because I will tell you before this review, this was an album that I did not like that much at all. It was like, 3 songs are great. The rest is junk. But my opinion has changed.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was, it's supposedly like reflecting on his last trips to Paris, starting with the 1961 Holiday with John, which is really interesting.
Yeah, see, another thing to think about this album is remember that McCartney was in a whole different emotional place, and I'm not going to get pretentious here because I hate pretentiousness. But he was in a whole different emotional space. His son was coming and then arrived during the album. They weren't touring. He didn't have the same type of hurried schedule that, he didn't have to do, tour, record, promote, release, tour, he didn't have to go into that whole thing. So he had some time off, and this is more of an album of just kicking back and relaxing. It was recorded in a studio and on a yacht. So, so it's going to have a whole different vibe. Artists are inspired by their surroundings. They're inspired by where they are, where they write the song. If you wrote a song in California in the sunshine, and then you tried to finish that song in New Jersey during thunderstorm, it's going to have a whole different vibe. So McCartney probably could not make this album again, or anything like this, because this was the one time he was in that sort of free space where he wasn't running around doing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and there hasn't been an album since that's like this at all, I don't think. Or really any songs. I mean, there's been personal albums like Chaos and Creation and Flaming Pie, but nothing like this reflective. And I mean, Jimmy and Joe, which... I mean, Jimmy is arguably the best musician in Wings, and Joe English is a really great drummer, really underrated, I think. But it's a threesome, and you kind of have to work with that. Yeah, and it's a reflective statement because I mean, Joe was a heroin addict, and he had to leave. Yeah,
and I think that people also give it shit because it's like, well, gee. They're back down to a trio. How come they didn't do Band on the Run again? Well, because they weren't in Lagos, and again, they weren't pressed for time. They weren't trying to re-record all the songs that got stolen during when they were mugged, and so it's a whole different situation. And we as listeners sometimes. We don't grow with the artist. The artist continues to grow. We want them to be the same exact. This isn't the same McCartney that wrote Yesterday. No. Well, it is, but no, it isn't because the other McCartney died in a car crash, 1966.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, I mean, it's also when you play this record, you just smell the weed. He had some good weed on this album.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Especially towards the end.
Yeah.
But okay, go ahead.
But yeah, just great. So moving on to the next song, which apparently George Harrison called this the best song on the album, which I can see. I don't love it as much as George did. I'm carrying. I love that beautiful acoustic little and it's just simple. It's one of those songs McCartney, I think, can write in 3 seconds.
Absolutely. And I think in some ways it's kind of like, it's not as good as, but it's this album's version of Love and Song.
Oh, That was a really good point.
You know, but I mean, I love Love and Song.
I do too. It's one of my favorite B-sides by McCartney.
Mm-hmm. But it's, you know, it kind of comes after a couple rockers, you know, just like on Venus and Mars.
Yeah.
It's not as pretty, but I think it sort of sets the tone like that. You know, you get, you know, London Town, which is, you know, soft and builds up, and then you get Cafe on the Left Bank, and then you get I'm Caring. So I think
it sets the tone for the rest of the record.
Yeah. So I think that's why I sort of consider it the Love and Song type thing. But, you know, I mean, McCartney couldn't write these songs, these just little guitar songs.
Yeah. And that's why I think McCartney is so brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think if I was going to say, is Lennon or McCartney the better songwriter, lyrically, I would give it to John 100%. Mm-hmm. But with the melodies and the arrangements, it has to go to Paul. Yeah,
I think Paul was always like reaching for something, whereas Lennon was happy, just whatever came to his head. I think that Paul thought, okay, I've written this, now how can I do better than that? Where I think that John kind of just wrote what he felt. And so sometimes McCartney can sound impersonal, whereas John was always personal. But I think both types of songwriting works, and because if you go back to the Beatles, McCartney wasn't necessarily always singing about himself. Lennon always was. I think the only song that wasn't about Lennon that Lennon wrote was Nowhere Man. Everything else was me. Nowhere Man was he's.
It was he was I, me, miming everything.
Yeah, exactly. But see, that's just because that's the way he writes. He writes from a personal place. McCartney is able to sort of step outside of himself and write, you know, in third person or as a voyeur, as opposed to being in the midst. You know, I mean, he was neither Magneto or Titanium Man. You know, nor was he the other guys in that song. He wasn't the Law.
Crimson Dynamo.
Yeah.
Great song. Mm-hmm. So moving on to the next, I count this as one song.
Me too.
Backwards Traveler and Cufflink. Mm-hmm. I don't like this song.
I love it because it's the same.
That's a child. Continue.
Not my child.
Yeah. There's no little Schnee running around.
No. The only little Schnee that was running around is 30 years old now. But I think that Backwards Traveler and Cufflink are very much like the songs on Abbey Road, and very much like a few of the songs on Back to the Egg, where he thought, hey, these are cool songs. Don't want to throw them away. Here, I'm just going to put these together. And that's the way I look at it. I think it's a fun song. It's a knockoff. I mean, it should have. It was a B-side, and it probably would have been great as a B-side only. But I'm happy it's there.
Yeah, I can't. I like Backwards Traveler, but I cannot stand Cufflink at all.
Like I said, there's a lot of weed on this album.
Yeah. We won't have Invisible Ray on this. He can educate us about that.
No. I'm not a weed person. I just know when weed influenced something.
Teenage Schnee.
But the next, obviously you don't like that song, so we'll move on to the next one, which is Whimsical. It's a children's song. Ironically called Children. You know what? Hudson is hosting the show and he's not paying attention. He's texting somebody. Hey, guess what?
I'm texting my mother to tell my sister to quiet down.
Mom.
This will be compressed, don't worry. But yeah, children. I don't like this song either.
I think
nothing against any.
I think it's a fun, whimsical song, but it's a children's song, and you're 14, and you're 14 years old,
and I'm not a child anymore,
and you're just moving out of your Barney and Wiggles phase. So right now you're bitter for any type of child songs. You're going, I never want to hear Raffi again. And Raffi's probably before your time. That's probably an old, but you'll appreciate it because right now, you're thinking, I'm grown up. I don't have to, I can go pee on my own. See, you may not grow to love it, but I mean, it's not like I like to listen to children's music and all that stuff, but I can see the charm of it, and that's why I like this. It literally sounds like it was probably written because they were, either right before James was born or right after, and Denny was inspired to smoke a little weed and write a children's song, and that's what it sounds like. So
it's just a song I can't stand. I don't know why.
So far, there's no songs.
Children's songs.
Well, yeah, because you're so grown up now, 14 years old. Hello.
Make fun of Ethan instead of me.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of your age. No, everyone makes fun of Ethan. I mean, my God, it's like there's a whole channel called Make Fun of Ethan Alexanian. And no, not really. No, I like Ethan.
Yeah,
I don't like you. No,
thanks.
No. No, I love you and Nathan, or you and Ethan, because you know, like I've told both of you before. Well, first off, before I get into that, let me just say that I am not a McCartney sycophant. I am not one of those people that just likes songs because it's by McCartney. There's so many people out there, and there's so many creepy people out there that if you talk about something, they'll be like, "Well, I don't think that Paul would have done it like that." It's like, how the would you know? You're not Paul. Just because you're his friend on Facebook and you listen to his albums obsessively doesn't mean that you know what Paul would like. Oh yeah, that looks realistic.
Yeah, we're gonna try to.
That looks real. The ghost of Hudson Ray.
There I am. But yeah, moving on to the But
yeah, I mean, the thing is I'm going to give you my honest opinions, and I don't like everything on every album. This album is one of my favorites, so obviously I'm going. There are songs I don't like, and you will find out.
Okay.
Anyway, I was going to say about you and that Earthman or Ethan, whatever his name is. I love the fact that you guys are. I mean, look, I'm 57. You guys are kids, and I mean, you're definitely a kid because you're 8 years old. Or how old were you again?
14.
Okay, 14. And then Ethan's like 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
But you guys know your stuff. I mean, I was as excited about music. You guys had the advantage because you're smarter than I ever was, and smarter than I am now. But you also have the internet, so you have more access to stuff. So that's why you guys are super knowledgeable, and you're passionate about it. And you guys are going to carry that on. Whereas there are people out there who proclaim to be, Beatles' #1 fan, McCartney's #1 fan, and then they end up not liking 75% of the material, and they don't know shit about the Beatles or McCartney. So at least you guys are on the ball. And then Ethan's Dave D, busy, giggly, googly, goggly, beak and titch.
I'll have to send you some Ethan bootlegs later. Beef, Daisy, Ding Dong, Mick and Titch.
Yeah. He's like the only person I think that can say that easily without thinking. I think he's got it tattooed on the inside of his eyeballs. I think he's got like Dave D, Dozy, Beaker, liquor, micker, ticker, and tick or whatever. But anyway, back to the album. No, but I commend you and Ethan because you guys know your stuff and you guys are going to carry this on. I'm not going to be around for much longer. I'm 57 years old. People like me don't live past 57 and a half. But I'm going to be, you guys are going to be carrying this on into the future and hopefully not the nincompoops. But anyway,
I can name a few.
Yeah, I know. Let's not say we did. Yeah, we'll do that offline. On to the next one.
So, Girlfriend. I love this song.
Me too. Absolutely.
Everybody trashes it. I'm sick of it. It's one of my favorite Wings tracks. I love the Girlfriend. It's simple. It's cute. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's just great.
So far, do you notice a trend? Not this album, every song has been different to the song before it and to the song after it.
Yeah, I think just that's more and more we as we progress.
Yeah. I think that's what people don't like about certain albums. It's like, well, it's too different. And then and of course they're going to say, now, of course, people have a right to not like London Town. People have a right to not like the song Girlfriend, but those people should be arrested and thrown in jail.
I can name somebody.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to avoid hopefully you're keeping an eye on the comment stream because I'm so easily distracted. I could be talking about something and I could just see
be talking about beefy, Deezy, stringy McIntitch.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I see Oliver or Tom or Wes say something, and all of a sudden I'm going, "What the hell was I talking about?" And I'm live on YouTube. But but anyway, yeah, Girlfriend, a beautiful song. I mean, it's not a ballad, but it's a touching song.
It is. I mean, it's not Yesterday, but it's brilliant.
Yeah, McCartney doesn't use his falsetto a lot through a whole song.
No.
So it's a rarity in that situation, and I thought it turned out wonderful.
It did. So moving to the next song, which I think is a great way to close out side one, bringing it up tempo again. I've Had Enough, which is just a great rocker.
My opinion, should have been switched. Either Girlfriend should have ended the side, or With a Little Luck should have ended the side, and I've Had Enough should have opened side 2. But I've Had Enough is a great song, and it totally shows the direction he was going to go with the next album.
Yeah, it does.
In fact, I think somewhere in time there was a time portal, right? They were so high that they walked through this time portal, and the Paul McCartney of 1979 met the Paul McCartney of 1978, and they said, let's switch tracks. And so the McCartney of 1979 gave the 78 version, I've Had Enough, and the 78 version gave the 79 version, Arrow Through Me. Because if you go back and listen to Back the Egg, Arrow Through Me sounds like it should have been on London Town, and I've Had Enough. Or
side 2 of Back to the Egg.
or it should have been on, and I've Had Enough should have been on Back the Egg. Now it sounds like I'm the ones on weed, telling these time portal, time traveling Paul McCartneys. Actually, what I'm going to do, as soon as we're done, I'm going to travel back in time and try to not say that.
Yeah. But just a great song. So it was obviously the second single, but yeah.
Got played on the radio a lot. Not as much as With a Little Luck.
No. We already kind of discussed With a Little Luck. I like how it opened side 2.
Yeah.
Famous.
I mean, it is a good side opener, but I think that like London Town is the softer song that opens side 1, and with a little luck, is a softer song that opened side 2. I think one of them should have been switched. One of them should have had something with a different mood. Because those songs, mood-wise... Now, those songs are great. I'm not dissing them. But I'm just saying as an opener. I'm thinking I've Had Enough should have opened side 2. My opinion.
I've had enough of your opinion.
But then, remember, time-traveling me would have had I've Had Enough open up side 2 of Back to the Egg.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is the special Marvel edition of, with all the multiverse, the McCartney verse. all of a sudden right now, Hudson's going, why the hell did I ask this guy on?
This guy's going to have to come on soon.
Yeah. Me and Matt are buds.
Oh, I love Matt. We all love Matt. Go subscribe to his channel. Except
when he says it's not an A+ album for him. Matt, you're wrong. My friend, I am coming to Poughkeepsie, and I'm going to shake some sense into you. I'm just throwing the word Poughkeepsie out there because I like to say the word Poughkeepsie. Oh. But, see, Hudson is just really regretting having me on. Just going, is he?
Schnee is fun. We love Schnee. And going on to the second side and side 2, we have to go to famous groupies. I have an opposite view.
Well, that's because you're 14.
I usually don't like Granny Paul. I know a former guest of ours, Andy Nichols, is a Granny Paul obsessed. This is fun Granny Paul.
I think this, through this whole album, I think this is the one that I wish was not on the album. In fact, I wouldn't even want this as a B-side.
You want this as like...
I just want this... I don't need to ever hear the song again. I don't hate it, but it's kind of like, something like, was that a burp? Oh, no, that was the song Famous Groupies by Paul McCartney. It's just like, oh, how rude.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a song that I'm like, whatever. I never have to hear it again. But I listened to it in honor of you. I listened to it 2 times this week.
Good. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Water Spout should be on this album.
Yeah. Oh, Water Spout's a great song.
It is. But moving on to the other Denny song, and I love Denny Lane. Mm-hmm. I think he's got some fantastic songs. I think Again and Again and Again is one of the best songs on Back to the Egg. And I'm one of those people who calls Wings a band.
Yeah.
I'm not. I won't name him. I won't name a certain person.
Wait, you mean that person?
That does not identify Wings as a group, because people that say I think it's wrong that people say that this wasn't a band. This was a band. I mean, look at Speed of Sound.
Yeah, no, but see, look at what McCartney was doing after Wings. His songs, of course, it was a band, and he was 99 or 95% of the creative input, but he was also working off other people. And
like the Wingmen. When I spoke with Lawrence Juber, he said like Steve Hawley should have had a writing credit on the song Old Siam Sir. Because he came up with that riff, the
right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is a great song. I love that song.
That's one of my favorite albums of all time. Yeah. It really is.
Think about the song My Love.
Yeah.
McCartney wanted Henry McCulloch or Henry McCulloch, however you pronounce it, wanted him to play something, but they sort of pushed for Henry to play his own melody or whatever. Yeah. And that's one of the great melodies. In fact, I put that melody right up there with the London Town guitar solo. The melody of that solo is beautiful.
Yeah, but I mean, I love Red Rose Speedway, but that's a whole another story.
Yeah. One More Kiss, my favorite song on that album.
Oh.
I know it's one of his sappy little country songs. Yeah, One More Kiss, Sally G, Country Dreamer. I want somebody to put together a McCartney and Western, like a 12-track album, and just get his country songs and put it all together.
Yeah, that would be cool. Good point.
Yeah.
But yeah, going on to, we already talked about the Denny song, did we?
Well, yeah, we were just. I like it. You don't.
Yeah.
I think it's a great.
Okay.
It's a folk song.
It is.
Like I said, if you go back and look at this record, it's a folk album.
Yeah, but so going back to Name and Address, I love this. It's so overlooked. I mean, I love that opening guitar lick. I mean, it was.
That's one of us.
Yeah. It was recorded on February 14th, 1977. It was Paul's sentimental influence of Elvis Presley, even though it was recorded long before he passed, apparently. But yeah, great song.
I heard rumors, he wrote that for Elvis, like he was going to present that to Elvis. I don't believe that, because Elvis was not recording anything close to this and he would not have. Like Johnny Cash in the 90s, when he went back to sort of the stripped down stuff. And there have been artists that have veered from their original course, but then, after years of not selling, then they sort of went back to their roots, and then they became popular again. Elvis was not in that position. Colonel Tom Parker would have never let him do that. So I believe that this was a song inspired by those Sun records, and it's a really fun song, but I don't think, you hear things for years. Oh yeah, if anyone really believes that McCartney died, again.
Check out that episode that I did with Mac Como. Little plug.
Okay. But it's fun. It's fun to think of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah. Moving on to the next song.
Sounds like Hudson's having a party, or everyone in Hudson's family is having a party, and he was not invited.
Hudson's noise canceling microphone stopped working before the show.
Oh, that's
what
right.
happened.
Okay.
Moving on to the next track. Don't Let Me Bring You Down. What are your thoughts on Don't Let Me Bring You Down?
Great folk song. It's a nice, pretty folk song. And it's, I'm just going to say random things now because you're not paying attention because you're texting, Mom, tell her to shut up. No, I think it's a great fun folk song. I love the flute. I love the fact that you're not listening to me because you're hearing people going, Mom, Hudson has to take out the trash. But yeah, I like it. And the look on your face is just like, I don't know if maybe I should follow the script.
Yeah. I don't like Don't Let Me Bring You Down. It's forgettable.
Well, that's because you're 14.
Yeah, that's not true. 14. Age is just a number.
When you're 15 and a half, you'll like it.
I'll be driving by then.
But no, I do. I think it's a nice song. It certainly. I mean, you could take Famous Groupies off of this album for sure. Name and Address, you can keep it on. I don't dislike it that much, but I do really like this song. I can see why people don't. Again, I've said it before. It's a folk album. That song is the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
He's making a folk pop album, not a rock album.
Yeah. But good song. It's okay.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next song. More Smooth and the Grey Goose.
Tell me how you receive me. Yeah, no. I think this is friggin' they were just baked.
They were stoned.
They were so out of it. And I love it. I do
too.
I love this song. In fact, I think this was them just saying, hey, we can do this when we're zonked out of our minds off of this tie stick, and it's like, Denny, go on. Of course, they always had Denny by the weed. Paul and Linda wouldn't buy the weed, and they wouldn't send, the new guys, in the band. It was always Denny. And it's like,
nobody knew who Denny was. Nobody cared.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, they're laying down tracks and Paul goes, "Hey, Denny." And then Denny just goes, "Paul, I want to record." He goes, "Denny." And then Denny would have to go buy the weed. And Denny would probably take some of it out and, hide it. Yeah. But anyway, it was some good weed there on here. And I think that this is sort of a precursor to Old Siamser. I think Old Siamser was probably written in the same way, where it started as a jam and it just kept going and kept going and kept going. Because it doesn't seem that this song was, here, I wrote this on acoustic. At this part we build up, this part we go down, this part we do this. I think that this was just created initially in the studio based on a piano riff or an idea, and it just grew into something, in my opinion, fantastic.
Yeah. It's not the best song on the album, but it's fun.
Yeah.
But
Are you on Pornhub right now? Doesn't look like you're paying attention.
No, I'm looking at my notes.
Okay. Okay.
She is not getting invited back.
I didn't expect to. I'm grateful to be invited once. This is why nobody invites me to their shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mull, obviously we discussed, we love.
Yes. And Girl School.
Yeah.
Girl School's right up there, in my opinion, with his other I don't think it's
Junior's
as good
Farm.
as Junior's Farm. I think it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think overall it's a fantastic album. You see, I don't look at for example, Squeeze East Side Story is my favorite Squeeze album. But there's one or two songs I don't care for. And, some people go, well, how can it be one of your favorite albums if it has songs you don't like? It's like just the way the album sounds, the way it holds together. If you go look at the Mona Lisa, or if you look at any piece of art, it has a crack here or a tear there. It has imperfections, but those imperfections make it what it is. And I think that London Town is very much like, well, I don't think it's the Mona Lisa. I don't think it's his masterpiece, but I think it's a fantastic album. It's my second favorite Paul McCartney album. I've listened to it more times than Ram, Band on the Run, but I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying it's my second favorite after Back to the Egg. So I thought he was, I just kept thinking that Wings were getting better, with, let's say I'm going to start with Red Rose Speedway. I'm not going to go back to, well, heck, if you start with Wildlife, that was way down here.
I love that album. That's my favorite Wings album.
Yeah, well, that's because you're 14. But Wildlife, then Red Rose Speedway, then Band on the Run, then Venus and Mars. I think that Speed of Sound was a slight little dip, but then back up with London Town, back up with Back to the Egg. And I think it's just because their weed kept getting better and better and better. And then they took away his weed in Japan, and down goes his career.
That's why Schnee doesn't like McCartney.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got weak weed. No, actually, you know what? I don't drink alcohol or do any kind of drugs at all. Yeah. I'm already zonked out. Yeah. Yeah, I'm already messed up enough. But yeah, first off, I really appreciate being asked, because I don't do Beatles stuff. And I actually have thought about getting on my channel and talking about the Beatles. But what can I say that hasn't been said? And I mean, I think that we all offer a unique perspective. Now, you may not like my perspective. But that's because you're 14.
I like you do. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. No, but see, and that's what I think is great, because you're looking at it backwards, and I'm looking at it. I was there when this came out. I bought this album today.
My parents weren't even born.
Really? Holy crap! What are you? Okay.
My mom was born the year after, and my dad was born in '82.
Your dad was born the year I graduated high school.
That's scary. That means you'll have to be my grandpa.
I know. No. I'm probably judging by your family now. Your age, their age. I'm old enough to be your great grandfather.
Great. Grandpa Schnee.
Yeah. I guess that'll be my name. But no, I really appreciate being asked, because I love to talk about this stuff, but I just never get the opportunity. I just don't want to talk about it on my channel. But I do at the same time,
Yeah. We'll talk about that after the show.
Yeah. So
I've got an idea.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you for coming on.
But yeah, London Town. And I think everybody needs to go back, look at it a whole different way. Look at it. Look at where Paul's mind was, where his life was. He was father. It's a folk album. It's coming from a whole different place than any of his other albums, and it's just fabulous. So I'll be quiet.
Yeah, I will say, coming from if I was ranking my favorite McCartney albums, all 27 of them, which there is now, including one Fireman album, it's probably in the 15 to 20 area, probably like that number 15, 16. If I was ranking them all, I think it's a solid record. It doesn't jump out to me as but I do play it often because it's something that does get ignored, and it should be looked at in a better way.
Yeah. It's just coming from a different place. He was in a different place, like we all are.
Different mood, different time.
Yeah, exactly.
But thank you, and I'm going to end the broadcast now.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, and remember, time traveling McCartney 1978 met time traveling McCartney 1979, and life will never be the same again.
And remind me never to have this so on the show.